Hey, this guy's Chad, and welcome to Grapple-Sauce Wrestling. We are gathered here today for part 2 of our look into wrestling feuds. Not just any feuds, but the greatest blood feuds through the years. If you've enjoyed this series, please give us a like, share, and sub. So strap in and enjoy as we look at my top 5 favorite blood feuds in wrestling. Take 5. Daniel Bryan versus The Authority. A true David versus Goliath story where the WWE didn't want to push Daniel Bryan, but the WWE Universe had other plans and he became undeniable. Rewind back to 2012, WrestleMania 28. Daniel would walk into WrestleMania as defending champion, but the WWE saw little value in him and he would lose the belt in just 18 seconds to Sheamus. For the remainder of the year, he would end up in the unlikely tag team of Team Hell No and still manage to gain popularity. In the summer of 2013, after re-entering singles competition, Daniel Bryan would fail to win Money in the Bank, but John Cena would personally choose Bryan as his opponent for the main event of SummerSlam, infuriating the WWE Authority. Triple H would insert himself into the match as special referee, and after a hard-fought match, Bryan would win the championship. His victory would be short-lived though, as after the match, Trips would hit Daniel with the pedigree and let Randy Orton cash in Money in the Bank on him. Bryan would win the rematch, and once again Trips would find a way to get the belt back into Orton's hands, this time declaring the ref issued a fast count and stripped him of the title. Hell in a Cell 2013. Bryan would receive another shot at the title, this time with Shawn Michaels as the referee. As Bryan was set to once again beat Orton, Shawn would hit him with sweet chin music and Orton would retain again. Fast forward to the 2014 Royal Rumble. Daniel Bryan is beloved by the fans. After a loss in the opening match, fans were primed for a Daniel Bryan win. They would even boo the number 30 entrant, Rey Mysterio, when they realized their man would not be in the Rumble. That year's winner, Batista, also got booed because the leader of the Yes Movement was not in the picture. During the height of the Yes Movement, Bryan and the WWE Universe would take over the ring in protest. After getting called a B-plus player, Bryan would get one slim chance to get into the main event of WrestleMania 30. If Bryan could beat Triple H in the opening match of Mania, then he would be inserted into the main event and it would become a triple threat. The Cerebral Assassin would do anything he could to win the match, but Daniel's determination would win him the match. But Trips wouldn't stop there with a brutal post-match beatdown, further injuring Bryan. This set the scene for one of the most dramatic Mania wins ever. Batista and Orton would team up against the popular Daniel to turn it back into a singles match. But in the comeback of all comebacks, Daniel Bryan would overcome the odds and the injuries and somehow close WrestleMania with the belt. Take 4. Swerve Strickland and Hangman Adam Page. This may be recency bias, but man, this feud was hot. This feud kicked off with a simple premise. Swerve wants to move up the card and he wants Hangman's spot. Hangman hadn't done much since losing the belt, and Swerve believed that Hangman was resting on his laurels, and Swerve should be occupying Hangman's spot on the card. This led to their initial match at WrestleDream, where this very strong match would kick off their feud. They had amazing chemistry right off the bat, and during this match they developed a great level of animosity. Even though Swerve was the heel and eventually won by cheating, they were in Seattle and the white-hot crowd was firmly on his side. During the build to Full Gear 2023, the promos and violence would escalate between the two, with Swerve breaking into Adam Page's house and threatening his child. To say the least, this was chilling and really pushed this into blood feud territory. This would lead to Hangman getting Swerve in a Texas Death Match at Full Gear 2023. A Texas Death Match is normally a brutal and violent affair that should blow off any feud. This went beyond that. It was disturbing, disgusting, bloody, and insanely violent. And I fucking loved it. There was a staple gun, blood drinking, and hanging. Yet it wasn't just violent for violence sake. It was poetic and motivated and had many pointed storyline references. An instant classic in a company full of them. Swerve and Hangman 3. Rankings are back and both men are fighting to see who will take on Samoa Joe at Revolution. A match on AEW Dynamite that goes the distance, and when Swerve asks for 5 more minutes, an unhinged and much darker Hangman says no. Revolution 2024. This leads to the match at Revolution becoming a 3-way dance, where Hangman's hatred for Swerve gets in the way, and Joe retains his championship because Hangman didn't care about the win, only that Swerve didn't. This blood feud is still pretty young, and I hope we have years of interactions between these two. Take 3, Kevin Steen versus El Generico. Back before you knew them as Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn, these two were truly destined to fight forever. Kevin trained under Rougeau and began wrestling from 2000 to 2003, mostly mechanical, emotionless matches, as this is how he was trained. And then he met El Generico, whom Kevin did not like right off the bat, but Generico did introduce Steen to a new kind of wrestling that was raw and improvised. He saw El Generico do a moonsault off the ropes outside the ring and he was hooked. He found a new way to do this. Kevin's new strange friend introduced him to a more exciting style in the IWS, and Steen wanted more. He wanted a one-on-one match with El Generico and would get it on November 22nd, 2003. One problem. Kevin's teacher wanted Steen to wrestle his shows exclusively. Steen talked his way into one IWS match with Generico, and that match was a wild, instant classic. The crowd, having been clued into this as a one-time thing, begged him to change his mind. Steen went back to Rougeau, following his heart, and told him he was going to wrestle with El Generico in the IWS. Steen and Generico are paired up with the experienced PCO in a 3-way dance, and although it's rough, it's a very wild match. From there, we go to CZW and tear the house down. The bonkers CZW chants turn into IWS chants as they get over with the crowd. This turns into opportunities with PWG. They are flown in as a tag team, but one problem, their opponents don't show. In a moment of improvisation, they turn it into a singles match against each other, where Steen attacks Generico before the bell. Kevin's in-ring trash talking is next level, and Generico proves resilient and more talented than Kevin had anticipated, and they have themselves a banger. Fast forward to 2005. Both wrestlers are consistently flying out of Montreal for bookings in CZW and PWG, and just starting to see some Ring of Honor dark matches. Steen is the PWG champ and CZW Ironman champ, and El Generico is part of the PWG tag champs with his partner, Beef Wellington. Kevin Steen is having a brutal last man standing match against a wrestler named Damien, and Kevin is looking like he's got it won when Beef Wellington comes out to interfere against Steen. Steen knocks his ass out, and this brings out El Generico. After a stare down and some words exchanged, El Generico turns on his partner and blasts Beef with a hell of a kick, cementing a lifelong partnership, leading to the two tagging together. The two take a path to ROH, where they become known as never being very serious until they step foot in the ring, where they are vicious and serious. Their first feud is against the Briscoe brothers, where they tear the house down. Their finisher is the assembly line, which is truly something to behold, a stitched-together combination of Steen's package piledriver that feeds into El Generico's brainbuster. Their partnership takes them to becoming the ROH Tag Champs, where in 2009 they have a truly monumental battle with the Young Bucks, in which they lose. In the aftermath, Steen turns on El Generico with a low blow and hitting him over the head with a chair, ending their partnership. The two wrestlers would eventually end up having an unsanctioned fight in Ring of Honor, pitting Generico's mask up against Steen's career, where Generico would pick up the win. 2012 would see Kevin reinstated, and the two would pick it up with a last man standing match. Generico would spit at Steen and give him the double bird, while El Generico's former partner, Jimmy Jacobs, would clobber Steen with a chair, giving El Generico the win. El Generico wouldn't be seen for some time, but after a title defense, Steen would receive Generico's mask in a box as a warning sign, leading to a ladder match at the Final Battle 2012. Another amazing match where the finish saw Generico eating a package pile driver onto some stacked ladders and Steen would climb to retain his belt. Shortly after that, both men would debut in NXT and continue their forever blood feud as Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. Take 2. Kenny Omega and Kazuchika Okada. This blood feud would have a series of New Japan matches that would break Meltzer's star system with 6, 6.25, and 7-star matches. Okada would debut his Rainmaker gimmick in 2012 and eventually beat Hiroshi Tanahashi to become the ace of the company and eventually IWGP Heavyweight Champion. Omega would slowly heat up in New Japan, eventually becoming known as the promotion's best foreign wrestler, wrestling as the tag team known as the Golden Lovers and eventually breaking out as a singles competitor as the Cleaner. After winning the G1 Climax in 2016, Omega set his sights on Okada, where they would have their first match at Wrestle Kingdom 11. This match was like they were feeling each other out, starting slow with the pace picking up as the match went on. Okada won, but would see Kenny Omega again soon. Months later at Dominion 6, Okada would choose Omega as his opponent. The match was similarly paced to the first, but they brought the intensity up as it grew more and more heated as they dished out some seriously intense punishment. This ended in a draw that left everyone stunned. Fast forward to the 2017 G1 Climax. Kenny and Okada would determine which competitor would go on to the finals. This match started off brutal, as they were both clearly frustrated over the results of their previous outing. In this intense bout, Kenny would pick up his first win over Okada in a hard-fought match. June 9, 2018. Omega and Okada would put on one of the greatest matches in wrestling history. Rather than seeing who was the better man or who could be more brutally savage, they told a story about the title. They delivered a heart-wrenching story that showed their history and how far they would go to be champion in a 2 out of 3 falls match. First fall went to Okada, second and third to Kenny, where Kenny would put an end to Okada's historic 720-day reign in a true masterpiece of storytelling. Take 1. Johnny Gargano and Tomaso Ciampa. Sometimes the person you take a bullet for is behind the trigger. June 2016. First round of the Cruiserweight Classic. The members of DIY are paired up against each other in the first round. In this compelling match, Ciampa would show his partner a moment of compassion and fail to pull the trigger on a running knee. He would get rolled up for his trouble. The duo would go on to unsuccessfully challenge the Revival for the Tag Team Championships and fail to advance in the Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic against the Authors of Pain. November 19th, 2016, NXT TakeOver Toronto. DIY would challenge the Revival in a 2 out of 3 falls match for the championships, in one of the best tag team matches I've ever seen. The teams would trade falls 1 and 2 in an intense lead up to the final fall. The third fall would see Dash and Dawson simultaneously tapping out in the middle of the ring in one of my favorite finishes to a match ever. January 28th, 2017, NXT TakeOver San Antonio. DIY lose the championships to the Authors of Pain in an absolute beating. May 20th, 2017, NXT Chicago. In a ladder match versus AOP, the duo would come up short again. After the conclusion of the match, as DIY are taking their exit up the ramp, Ciampa would grab Gargano by the back of the head and scream, "This is my moment!" He would throw Gargano into the LED board and land multiple running knees, the same move he failed to hit Gargano with in 2016. In an image that is still burned into my memory, with Ciampa sitting near the announce table, an absolutely crushed Gargano would ask Ciampa, "Why?" And Ciampa would host Gargano up and crash him through the table with an air raid crash. Sadly, after this betrayal, Ciampa would have to go away due to an injury suffered in this match. During Tomaso's absence, Johnny Wrestling would make a comeback and go on a tear, winning matches against the likes of Cassius Ohno and Aleister Black to earn a championship match against Almas at NXT TakeOver Philly. Johnny would come up short in one of the best matches of 2018, and while he was saying his goodbyes at the top of the ramp, Tomaso would appear like a ghost from the past and smash Johnny Wrestling with his crutch. Gargano would end up being forced to leave NXT due to the Psycho Killer's interference in a loser leaves NXT match against Almas. After a year of obsession and a brutal beating at the PC, William Regal would grant Gargano an unsanctioned match against Ciampa at NXT TakeOver New Orleans. If Gargano wins, he would be reinstated. In a poetic masterpiece of violence, these two men would all but kill each other, and Johnny would hit his rival with the Gargano escape with Ciampa's own knee brace wrapped around his face and mouth. Summer of 2018. NXT TakeOver Chicago. The men would beat the holy hell out of each other in a Chicago street fight, where, as Nigel McGuinness would put it, Gargano has become what he despises. The finish would see Ciampa DDT a handcuffed Gargano onto the wooden floorboards. Johnny would embrace his dark side, and the Blackheart Ciampa was there for it. Every encounter would reference their storied past. January 26, 2019. Johnny would defeat Ricochet to become the NXT North American Champion, while Tomaso would retain his championship with a win over Aleister Black. As the show concluded, the two would appear on stage and hoist their championships together. The two would join forces and once again compete in the Dusty Rhodes Classic. As before, the two would come up short, and as they were walking up the stage together, Tomaso would once again try to throw Johnny wrestling through the LED board. Johnny, knowing how this would play out, would reverse it and throw the Psycho Killer off the stage and blast him with a super kick. Ciampa would have to vacate his title due to neck injury, and Gargano would win Goldie in an amazing 2 out of 3 falls match against Adam Cole, baby, and finally fulfill his prophecy, and Ciampa would celebrate with Gargano at the top of the ramp. And there it is, my top 10 blood feuds. I hope you enjoyed this two-parter because I had a lot of fun making it. What did I miss? What's on your top 10 list? Let me know in the comments below. And as always, if you enjoyed this, give us a like, share, and sub. Thanks for watching, and peace!